Hello and welcome back to Introduction to Astronomy. My name is Paul Eric and I will be your host. And last time, in lesson number 1, we introduced some concepts about astronomy and some things that you're going to be learning while you're watching all of these videos. So today, in lesson number 2, we're going to talk about what constellations are, and then how to identify them and how to find them in the night sky. So today, here's your learning objectives. So you should be able to explain why ancient civilizations studied astronomy, and then explain what a constellation is, and then visualize constellations in 3 dimensions, explain the difference between a star's apparent brightness and its magnitude, and be able to calculate mathematically how much brighter one star is compared to another if you know the two stars' magnitudes. Also, you're going to be locating stars using a star chart, a planisphere, a celestial sphere, and then a phone app. Also, we're going to explain why constellations are only seen at certain times of the day, at certain times of the year, and it's only at certain locations on the Earth. And then finally, we're going to talk about what is precession and what causes it. If you're reading along in your textbook, which is the Essential Cosmic Perspective by Bennett, you'll be reading out of chapter 2. And then there is a good crash course episode, episode number 2, entitled Naked Eye Observations. So first, why did the ancients study astronomy in the first place? Okay, here's a very famous picture here. That's of Stonehenge. And one reason, it might have had religious connotations. Another reason is that they might have used the stars to be able to navigate with. But the primary one that most people believe is that they used astronomy to know when to plant their crops. So for example, this is Stonehenge here, and when the sun would come up, it would shine through holes in those rocks. It would cast light onto rocks on the outer ring of it, and then each of the rocks on the outer ring had a particular date, so that you would know when that rock was lit up, then you would know then that it was that time of the year. And then when a certain rock was lit up, then that would mean it's time to plant your wheat or plant your barley. And then when another rock got lit up, that means it would be time to harvest those. So that would be the primary purpose for studying astronomy. So what are constellations? So you've got the traditional view of what a constellation is, and then you've got the more contemporary view. So the old view would be that the stars in the sky are making a picture. So here we've got the constellation Cassiopeia, and it's the one that makes a W in the night sky. And so the ancient Greeks made up a story about that particular constellation, and they similarly had stories that went with all of the major constellations in the night sky. Well, the problem though is, what do you do when you've got a star that is not part of the W, but it's pretty close to the W? Okay, how would you describe to somebody else where is that star located at? And then it gets even worse, because if you use a telescope, then you would find that there are stars that are invisible to the naked eye, but they're there. So again, how do you describe where those stars are located at? So what the modern astronomer has done is that they have uh, sur- cut up the night sky into like a jigsaw puzzle, and then each of the pieces of the puzzle has one of the traditional Greek constellations in it. So if you look at that picture there, you'll notice that surrounding the traditional constellation Cassiopeia, the W, is an outline, and then that way any star that is in that particular piece of the jigsaw puzzle, you say is part of the constellation Cassiopeia. So even though it's not part of the W, it's part of the constellation Cassiopeia. And so they have carved up the complete northern sky and southern sky into these jigsaw puzzles, and each one of them has a traditional constellation in it. So here's a picture showing all of those different jigsaw puzzles, and then inside the puzzles you can see the traditional constellations. Constellations are three-dimensional. So if you look on that in the picture there on that back screen, you see a traditional constellation. It's the one that has the three stars in the belt. Okay, and that is the constellation Orion. So you probably already knew this, but a lot of people tend to think about all the stars in that constellation are the same distance from Earth, and you can see from that picture that they're not. So that some of the stars in the constellation Orion are close to the Earth, and some of them are very, very far away. You can see that that back constellation, or that back star in the constellation, is like 225 light years away from Earth. So, trivia time. Planet of the Apes. Okay, remember the original Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston. Okay, where were the astronauts in that movie? Where were they heading to? They were heading to the constellation Orion, and they were heading to the middle star in the belt on Orion. But something went terribly wrong, and their spaceship got caught in a time warp. They ended back up on Earth with those damn dirty apes. You need to watch the movie Charlton Heston. Some pretty overacting in that movie. Okay, let's take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about star brightness.